Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's get going with Silmarillion Saturday. These Saturdays are our chance to revisit the history and legends of the Elder Days, whether from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or more. Today, we are continuing in the Akadabeth in the Silmarillion, where Amandil prepares to attempt the Númenórean equivalent of an 80-yard Hail Mary with 3 seconds on the clock in the fourth quarter while down 6 points. Insert your cultural sport ball reference here. When last we left, the human sacrifices had begun, in the hopes that the Lord of Darkness would make the Númenóreans stronger than the Valar. Alas, as we read, death did not depart from the land, but came more quickly and more violently, with revenge and jealousy setting man against man, and that is where we'll pick up. Nonetheless, for long, it seemed to the Númenóreans that they prospered, and if they were not increased in happiness, yet they grew more strong, and their rich men ever richer. For with the aid and counsel of Sauron, they multiplied their possessions, and they devised engines, and they built ever greater ships. And they sailed now with power and armory to Middle-earth. And they came no longer as bringers of gifts, nor even as rulers, but as fierce men of war. And they hunted the men of Middle-earth, and took their goods, and enslaved them. And many they slew cruelly upon their altars, for they built in their fortresses temples and great tombs in those days, and men feared them, and the memory of the kindly kings of the ancient days faded from the world and was darkened by many a tale of dread. Now, quick aside, I don't interrupt very often, but for those who get the bonus episode, we're seeing exactly this in the story of Tal Elmar, aren't we? Now, for those who don't get the bonus episode, check out patreon.com/TolkienTimes. Anyway, back to the reading, but I couldn't not point out that very clear Tal Elmar moment. Thus, Ar-Pharazôn, king of the land of the star, grew to the mightiest tyrant that had yet been in the world since the reign of Morgoth, though in truth, Sauron ruled all from behind the throne. But the years passed, and the king felt the shadow of death approach as his days lengthened, and he was filled with fear and wrath. Now came the hour that Sauron had prepared and long had awaited. And Sauron spoke to the king, saying that his strength was now so great that he might think to have his will in all things and be subject to no command or ban. And he said, "The Valar have possessed themselves of the land where there is no death, and they lie to you concerning it, hiding it as best they may because of their avarice and their fear, lest the kings of men should wrest from them the deathless realm and rule the world in their stead. And though, doubtless, the gift of life unending is not for all, but only for such as are worthy, being men of might and pride and great lineage, yet against all justice is it done that this gift, which is his due, should be withheld from the King of Kings, Ar-Pharazôn, mightiest of the sons of earth, to whom Manwë alone can be compared, if even he. But great kings do not brook denials, and take what is their due." Then Ar-Pharazôn, being besotted, and walking under the shadow of death, for his span was drawing towards its end, hearkened to Sauron, and he began to ponder in his heart how he might make war upon the Valar. He was long preparing this design, and he spoke not openly of it, yet it could not be hidden from all. And Amandil, becoming aware of the purposes of the king, was dismayed and filled with a great dread, for he knew that men could not vanquish the Valar in war, and that ruin must come upon the world if this war were not stayed. Therefore he called his son Elendil, and he said to him, "The days are dark, and there is no hope for men, for the faithful are few. Therefore I am minded to try that counsel which our forefather Eärendil took of old, to sail into the west, be there ban or no, and to speak to the Valar, even to Manwë himself if may be, and beseech his aid ere all is lost." "Would you then betray the king?" said Elendil. "For you know well the charge that they make against us, that we are traitors and spies, and that until this day it has been false." "If I thought that Manwë needed such a messenger," said Amandil, "I would betray the king. For there is but one loyalty from which no man can be absolved in heart for any cause. But it is for mercy upon men and their deliverance from Sauron the deceiver that I would plead, since some at least have remained faithful. And as for the ban, I will suffer in myself the penalty, lest all my people should become guilty. But what think you, my father, is like to befall those of your house whom you leave behind when your deed becomes known? It must not become known, said Amandil. I will prepare my going in secret, and I will set sail into the east, whither daily the ships depart from our havens. And thereafter, as wind and chance may allow, I will go about, through south or north, back into the west, and seek what I may find. But for you and your folk, my son, I counsel that you should prepare yourselves other ships, and put aboard all such things as your hearts cannot bear to part with. And when the ships are ready, you should lie in the haven of Romenna, and give out among men that you purpose, when you see your time, to follow me into the east. Amandil is no longer so dear to our kinsman upon the throne that he will grieve overmuch if we seek to depart, for a season or for good. But let it not be seen that you intend to take many men, or he will be troubled, because of the war that he now plots, for which he will need all the force that he may gather. Seek out the faithful that are known still to be true, and let them join you in secret, if they are willing to go with you and share in your design. And what shall that design be? Said Elendil. To meddle not in the war, and to watch, answered Amandil. Until I return, I can say no more. But it is most like that you shall fly from the land of the star, with no star to guide you, for that land is defiled. Then you shall lose all that you have loved, for tasting death in life, seeking a land of exile elsewhere. But east or west, the Valar alone can say. Not too many thoughts here that aren't painfully obvious, but I want to note just a few things. After Sauron tells him that great kings take what is their due, we read that Ar-Pharazôn was besotted. Now, that is an archaic word for drunk or intoxicated, and it is exactly what we see that happened to the Noldor. Under the influence of Feanor, they became besotted as with wine. Now, nothing wrong with an ale at the Prancing Pony, but it seems that becoming drunk or besotted just doesn't lead to good things. Now, I love what Amandil does here. Not just that he's willing to roll the dice, but the fact that he knows it's not likely. The odds are stacked against him. He says, it may well prove that I shall show you no such sign as Eärendil showed long ago. And the almost prophecy that he tells Elendil, the odds are he's going to have to flee Numenor, the land of the star without a guiding star, because that land is defiled, and doing so is going to mean losing everything he's ever loved, which is literally the taste of death while he's still alive. It's deeply, deeply tragic, and also tragically true. But folks, that does it for this week's Silmarillion Saturday and for Series 8 of today's Tolkien Times. It's hard to believe I've put out almost 400 of these episodes, really, or more than 400 if I count the bonus Patreon episodes. It's time for one final reminder about the TTT release schedule. Just going to keep bugging you because I want to make sure nobody's worried that I'm gone for too long. The next 2 weeks, as usual, the show's going to be on hiatus as I plan Series 9 and its 48 episodes. When I come back after hiatus on December 16th, it's going to be to do that special holiday week on Letters from Father Christmas, picking up where I left off last year. When that week ends on December 21st, I'll be taking my actual personal and family time off for the weeks of Christmas and New Year's, and I'll then start Series 9 on January 6th. Thank you again for joining me. Please come back that first week of January as we continue the downfall of Numenor, at least for a few more weeks. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can get an ad-free feed, bonus episodes, be a part of my content council, and more. And please, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe, follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and everybody follow @TolkienTimes on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.